Alright guys, Ashes of Creation, a neckbeard Andy's wet dream, the Prophet, the Revolution, a game that will seemingly shake the MMORPG genre. Today I want to talk about my philosophy on should Ashes of Creation have a true flight system for every mount, or should they have a flying mount system in general, and why I think not having mounts that fly will indefinitely make the experience less enjoyable to ultimately losing a player base. I have found immense controversy around flying in MMOs, so some of you watching this will find this annoying or untrue, and hey, maybe I'm wrong and you are right, but sit with me and let's just think about it for a second. The launch of Ashes of Creation will look a little bit like this. Ashes of Creation will give you a cock rising. Undoubtedly, it will be a pleasant, uncharted, fantastic experience that will moist you for maybe a good year. It will be as if you're losing your virginity again. It will be epic and most importantly something we haven't really touched before. Not of this scale anyway. And I personally am excited to finally get my hands on the full game and never touch grass again. You see, in life, as humans, we have the tendency to become impatient and succumb to irritation after completing repetitive tasks. And sadly, this life mechanic will extend onto the games we are playing, especially MMOs. MMOs are renowned for linear, boring, and time-consuming questing. Everybody knows that. No matter the scale of immersion the game entices you with, you will end up leaving the game, taking a break, and so on. Unless Ashes of Creation innovated a new questing system, I doubt this will ever change for the average gamer. As a game developer, you most definitely cannot just rely on one aspect in MMOs to carry out the player base, and it just doesn't work. We saw this with New World, where the game put all in the money, the time, the art, into art and the aesthetic of the game. High on hopium, they thought that this was enough to keep the players playing, but as we know, it wasn't the case. In fact, what I can say, New World was definitely a pleasant experience in this uncharted world that you got in for a few days or months, but it soon got repetitive, tedious to travel around the world, and you just start noticing these patterns emerging, guides evoking, and just the fact that you have already admired and explored everything the game had to offer. I mean, what stops you from having a very similar experience with Ashes of Creation? We are currently seeing the live streams and the drastic change of quality and the aesthetic, and the time they put into creating the environment. The switch to Unreal Engine 5. Yeah, it looks great, it looks promising, but so did New World. What I'm trying to say here is that the MMORPG community is a categorical community. In particular, the fantasy genre is arguably split into demanding classifications. And if you exclude even one aspect, the game turns a bit from being the next WoW to something like New World. I'm afraid that this questionable design choice will impact the game negatively. I personally am up for the open idea to explore the game without the true flight mount system. I don't mind it, but sadly I believe that giving the player base a half-assed mount system that is on a cooldown period, it's just gonna frustrate the community. If you don't know, the basic description for the mount system in Ashes of Creation goes a bit like this. It's a dynamic mount system, a bit like the popular example Guild Wars 2. However, in Ashes of Creation you have a tier system. You have the grounded mounts, you have the gliding mounts, the jumping mounts, and you have the royal flying mounts, as well as an aquatic swimming mount. All is pretty self-explanatory, but the royal flying mounts. Now these mounts are tier 3 mounts, and these are only available to mayors of nodes, kings and queens, and legendary world bosses. Sounds fancy, I know, but you see the probability of me and you having the mount as such, well, it equates to something of about 1%. Will it be amazing to see the rarity of this phenomenon? Absolutely. Will it be beyond satisfying when you do and if you do get it? Well, as much as I would like to say yes, unfortunately these flying mounts is on a cooldown period. These mounts will actually have 15 to 30 days lifespan. The world bosses will drop an egg, which have a really low chance of dropping, and you will then have to cultivate the egg through the animal husbandry profession for handicrafts with high enough stable, meaning you have to go through a really long process to maybe get a mount, and if you do, it dies in the next 15 days. You see, the truth of the matter is that it will be fun. This will be an experience you will never forget. You will explore the world on foot. If you get the chance to get the 1% mount, it will be fantastic. It will be an unforgettable experience. But what I'm trying to say here is, and the thing you have to understand, as humans, after all the exploration, reaching max level, completing old side quests, and once you get to the point of waiting for new content, you will wish you had that mount that can fly around the world, as your little fingers will get tired of spamming buttons every day, seeing the same thing over and over again, especially on your third character that you have now created, going through the same quest lines just so you have a different class character geared up for endgame. Mark my words, the game will be different. You will be different and the experience will change you accordingly. Now, I don't speak for everyone, but aside the general things we talked about, Ashes of Creation dev team actually responding to why they have they won't be having a full-fledged flying mount system. Here's the clip.
Generally, flying is not something that we're going to be doing in this game. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of it is economic, some of it is just, we create this really great looking world, right, and we don't want you flying over all the time. Yeah. So everything kind of happens on the ground, and making kind of a flying game kind of changes that in our approach. So
right. That's why we reserved it to very few people per server, which is also going to make it a lot more meaningful when those flying dragons come into play for certain events and stuff.
Now, in my opinion, this is the most BS excuse. How many times have you just flew on your mount in WoW, Final Fantasy, or even Guild Wars 2 to explore the world? How many times have you just specifically put aside your questing and got on your flying mounts just to explore in detail the world from a different perspective? To view the world be on foot. Look, the reality is simple. Players will skip, ignore, walk by your creation of a map, no matter if the world is beautifully crafted or not. It will happen because the players are getting more competitive by the year, and you cannot change that. I believe having a truly well-crafted map, aesthetically pleasing, immersive environment will speak for itself and will motivate players to admire and appreciate the art, whether you are flying on a mount, exploring, or you are just exploring on foot, because I can just as easily stop, look around the world as I am on foot, but best believe this will only be at the beginning. Nothing lasts forever. So this was it, guys. I hope I extended my opinion the way I wanted, and thank you guys for watching, and have a pog day.